Hey there, safety enthusiasts, and welcome back to Key Safety Talks.
It's great to be here.
Today, we're going to be talking about a pretty important topic for anyone who's serious about a career in safety.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
We're going to be breaking down the ASP and CSP certifications offered by the BCSP.
Yeah.
So if you are looking to boost your cred,
Oh, absolutely.
open doors to new opportunities,
Yeah.
and really kind of level up
For sure.
in the safety world,
Absolutely.
these certifications are a must-have.
I would agree with that. These certifications, they're not just pieces of paper you know.
Right.
They're proof that you have the knowledge and the skills to really make a difference.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Before we jump into the specifics of the ASP and CSP, I think it's helpful to understand how the safety profession itself has evolved.
Mm.
You know, safety concerns haven't just popped up overnight. They have a surprisingly long history.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is fascinating to trace safety concerns back through the ages. Did you know that even ancient civilizations, they recognized the need to protect workers?
Really?
Yeah, for example, the Code of Hammurabi, which dates back to 1750 BC, actually included worker compensation laws.
Wow, that's incredible.
Well,
So the idea of workplace safety has been around for centuries. But how did we get from, those ancient laws to the modern safety profession as we know it today?
Well, a major turning point, I would say, was the Occupational Safety and Health Act of 1970 in the U.S.
Okay.
This legislation, it was a game changer. It established workplace safety and health regulations and actually created OSHA to enforce them. So this really brought the need for dedicated safety professionals. It brought it into focus.
That makes sense. So this act kind of created a demand for people with specialized knowledge and skills in safety.
Exactly. And that's where organizations like the BCSP come in. Founded in 1969, the BCSP, or Board of Certified Safety Professionals, they stepped up to standardize safety practices and certifications.
So the BCSP is essentially setting the bar for what it means to be a qualified safety professional. Can you tell us more about their role and how their certifications are viewed in the industry?
Absolutely. The BCSP, it's a peer certification board, meaning that they evaluate and certify safety professionals based on, rigorous standards. They offer a range of certifications, but the ASP and CSP are two of the most recognized and respected in the field.
Right.
And a big reason for that is that they're accredited by ANSI, the American National Standards Institute. This accreditation, it adds a huge amount of weight to these certifications.
So you know you're getting a certification that's been vetted and meets the highest industry standards.
Exactly.
Okay, let's zoom in on these specific certifications. First up, the ASP, or Associate Safety Professional. Where does this fit in a safety professional's career path? Is this considered an entry-level certification?
Yeah, you could say that. The ASP is a fantastic first step for those looking to demonstrate their commitment to the safety profession. It's a great way to build a solid foundation of knowledge and skills and to signal to employers that you're serious about safety.
Okay, so what does it actually take to earn the ASP designation? What are the requirements?
Well, there are two main components: education and experience.
Okay.
On the education side, you'll need either a bachelor's degree in any field or an associate degree in safety, health, or environment. If you go the associate degree route, you'll need to make sure it includes at least 4 specific safety courses that are outlined by the BCSP.
So there's some flexibility there. You don't necessarily need a dedicated safety degree to get started. What about the experience requirement?
Right. So in addition to education, you'll need at least 1 year of professional safety experience. And it's important to note that this experience needs to be hands-on, focusing on what we call preventative and professional level safety tasks.
Okay, so that term, preventative and professional level safety tasks, sounds pretty important. Can you break that down for us? What does that actually look like in a real-world setting?
Of course. Let's say you're a safety coordinator at a construction site. A preventative task might involve conducting a job hazard analysis, or a JHA, before starting a new project to identify potential hazards and put controls in place to mitigate those risks.
So you're proactively looking for ways to prevent accidents from happening in the first place.
Exactly. Now, a professional level safety task might involve investigating an incident that's already occurred.
Okay.
This goes beyond simply identifying what happened. It's about analyzing the root causes, looking for patterns or systemic issues, and then recommending changes to procedures or training programs to prevent similar incidents from happening again.
So that's where the professional aspect comes in. It's about using your knowledge and analytical skills to solve problems and create a safer work environment.
Precisely. And to be eligible for the ASP, At least 50% of your job duties need to involve these kinds of preventative and professional level tasks.
Got it. So it can't just be any job. It has to be directly related to safety and involve a certain level of responsibility and
Hmm.
decision making. Okay, so you've got the education, you've got the experience. What's next?
The exam, of course.
Right.
The ASP exam is designed to really test your knowledge and understanding of key safety principles. It consists of 200 multiple choice questions, which can seem a bit daunting, I know.
200 questions. That's quite a lot to cover.
Hmm.
What specific areas does the exam focus on?
It's comprehensive. It covers 7 key domains that are essential for any safety professional.
Okay.
We've got mathematics, which covers the calculations you might need when you are assessing risks or designing safety systems.
Okay.
Then there's safety management systems, which is all about developing and implementing comprehensive safety programs within organizations.
Okay, so those two sound pretty broad. What other areas are covered?
Well, you've got ergonomics, which focuses on designing workspaces and tasks to prevent musculoskeletal injuries. This is really important for anyone working in industries where repetitive motions or awkward postures are common.
Right, because even seemingly minor ergonomic issues can lead to some serious long-term injuries if they're not addressed.
Absolutely. And then we've got fire prevention and protection.
Of course.
This domain, it delves into fire hazards, prevention techniques, fire suppression systems, and emergency procedures.
So knowing how to prevent and respond to fires is obviously a critical skill for any safety professional.
It is, and the exam really dives into the details. You need to understand things like fire classifications, different types of extinguishers, how to develop effective fire safety plans.
Okay, so that's 4 domains down. What are the remaining 3?
We've got occupational health, which is all about identifying and controlling workplace hazards that can affect workers' health.
Okay.
This could include things like chemical exposure, noise levels, biological agents, and even stress.
So occupational health is about protecting workers from a wide range of potential hazards, both physical and psychological.
Exactly. And then there's environmental management, which focuses on minimizing the environmental impact of industrial activities. This includes topics like pollution control, waste management, and sustainability practices.
That's a really important area, especially as businesses become more aware of their environmental responsibilities.
It is, and it's an area where safety professionals are playing an increasingly important role. And finally, we have the domain of training, education, and communication. This is all about developing and delivering effective safety training programs, communicating safety messages effectively, and promoting a strong safety culture within the workplace.
That makes sense. Even if you have all the best safety procedures in place, if they're not communicated clearly and workers aren't properly trained, you're not going to have a truly safe work environment.
You hit the nail on the head. That's why this last domain is so crucial. It's all about empowering employees to take ownership of their own safety and the safety of their colleagues.
Okay, so the ASP exam covers a lot of ground, from math and safety management systems to ergonomics and environmental management. It's clear that the BCSP wants to ensure that certified professionals have a well-rounded understanding of safety principles.
Absolutely. And keep in mind, the exam questions aren't just about regurgitating facts.
Right.
They're designed to assess your ability to apply your knowledge in real-world situations.
So critical thinking and problem-solving skills are just as important as memorization.
That's right. You need to be able to analyze a scenario, identify potential hazards, and determine the best course of action to mitigate those risks.
Got it. So the ASP exam isn't for the faint of heart. It requires a solid grasp of a wide range of safety topics and the ability to think critically and apply that knowledge in real-world settings.
Exactly, but don't let that intimidate you. With the right preparation and resources, passing the ASP exam is definitely achievable. We'll dive into some effective study strategies in a bit.
That sounds good. But before we get into the nuts and bolts of studying, let's shift gears and talk about the CSP, or Certified Safety Professional.
Okay.
Now, this is considered the top tier of safety certification, right?
It is. Think of the CSP as the gold standard for experienced safety professionals. It's the certification that really sets you apart as an expert in the field.
So who exactly is this certification for?
Yeah.
What are the requirements to even sit for the CSP exam?
Well, the requirements, they're a bit more stringent than the ASP.
Okay.
First, you'll need a bachelor's degree from an accredited institution. That's the baseline.
Okay, so no associate degree option for this one. What about the experience requirement?
Right. So on top of the degree, you'll need 4 years of professional safety experience.
Okay.
And again, at least 50% of those duties need to be focused on those preventative and professional level tasks we talked about earlier.
So it's not just about the quantity of experience, it's about the quality and the level of responsibility.
Right.
But there's one more layer here, right? You need to already hold another BCSP certification or an equivalent credential.
You got it. To be eligible for the CSP, you must already have a BCSP qualified credential, like the ASP, or another recognized certification from a reputable organization.
So you're building on the foundation you established with the ASP or another credential. You're essentially proving that you've already mastered the basics and are ready to take your knowledge and skills to the next level.
Exactly. And of course, to earn the CSP, you'll need to pass the CSP exam, which, like the ASP exam, is quite comprehensive.
Okay, so tell us about the CSP exam itself. How does it compare to the ASP exam in terms of content and difficulty?
Well, both exams consist of 200 multiple choice questions, so they're equal in length.
Okay.
However, the CSP exam dives much deeper into the material, challenging you to apply your knowledge to complex real-world scenarios. It really tests your ability to analyze, evaluate, and synthesize information.
Can you give us a taste of what that looks like? What kind of challenging concepts or scenarios might we see on the CSP exam?
Let's take the domain of environmental management as an example.
Okay.
A question on the ASP exam might ask you to identify different types of hazardous waste,
Right.
but a CSP exam question might present you with a scenario where a company is facing a chemical spill and ask you to develop a comprehensive response plan that considers environmental regulations, worker safety, public health, and even the company's reputation.
Oh, wow. Okay, so it's really about taking those core concepts and applying them to real-world situations that require critical thinking and problem-solving skills.
Exactly. Another example might be in the domain of safety management systems.
Okay.
On the ASP exam, you might be asked about the different elements of a safety management system.
Right.
But on the CSP exam, you might be asked to design a safety management system for a specific organization, taking into account their industry, size, culture, and specific hazards.
So it's less about knowing the textbook definition of a safety management system and more about understanding how to build one from the ground up, tailoring it to a specific context.
Precisely. The CSP exam really challenges you to demonstrate that you can not only understand safety concepts, but also apply them in a way that effectively mitigates risks and creates a safer work environment.
Got it. So the CSP exam is definitely a step up from the ASP in terms of complexity and the level of critical thinking required.
It is. But for those who are serious about a career in safety and want to position themselves as leaders in the field, earning the CSP is an incredibly rewarding achievement.
Okay, so we've got a good overview of both the ASP and CSP certifications. Now, I know a lot of people listening are probably thinking, okay, this all sounds great, but how do I actually prepare for these exams? Where do I even begin?
That's a great question, and it's one we'll be diving into in more detail in our next segment. But for now, I'll leave you with this thought. The key to success on both the ASP and CSP exams is targeted and strategic preparation. It's not just about cramming information. It's about understanding the material deeply and being able to apply it in a variety of contexts.
Okay, folks, that wraps up part one of our in-depth look at the ASP and CSP certifications. We've covered a lot of ground from the history of the safety profession to the specific requirements and challenges of these exams. Stay tuned for part two, where we'll delve into some practical strategies for acing those exams and share some valuable resources to help you on your journey to becoming a certified safety professional.
Looking forward to it.
Welcome back to Key Safety Talks, everyone. So in part one, we explored the history of the safety profession, got into the nitty-gritty of the ASP and CSP requirements, and even got a glimpse of what those beastly exams are all about.
That's right. We laid the groundwork, and now in part two, it's time to get tactical. You've decided to go for it. You want that certification. So let's talk about how you're going to conquer these exams.
Okay, so let's assume someone listening is thinking, all right, I'm ready to take the plunge. I'm going for either the ASP or CSP. Where do I even begin preparing it? Can all feel pretty overwhelming.
It can be, no doubt, but like any big challenge, the key is breaking it down into manageable steps. Remember those 7 key domains we talked about for the ASP exam? Mathematics, safety management systems, ergonomics, all of that. Well, each one is like a piece of the puzzle. You need to have a solid understanding of each piece to pass the exam.
And I imagine the CSP exam kicks it up a notch, even more complex scenarios and a deeper level of analysis needed, right?
Got it. The CSP exam with its 9 knowledge domains really emphasizes applying those safety principles in real-world situations. It's not just about knowing the definitions, it's about understanding how it all comes together in practice.
Okay, so let's get practical. Where should someone even begin with their exam preparation?
First things first, you've got to figure out where you stand. What are your strengths and weaknesses? What areas do you need to focus on? The best way to do this is to take a practice exam.
Ah, the good old practice exams, like taking a sneak peek behind the curtain, right?
Exactly. The BCSP offers practice exams on their website, and trust me, they are invaluable. You'll get a feel for the format, the types of questions they ask, and most importantly, you'll see where you need to buckle down and study.
So it's not just about taking the practice exam to get a score, it's about using it as a diagnostic tool. Figure out what you don't know so you can focus your study efforts where they matter most.
That's the strategy. Targeted studying is far more effective than just trying to learn everything at once. Once you've identified your weak areas from the practice exam, it's time to create a study plan.
So don't just wing it. Having a plan keeps you on track and prevents those dreaded all-nighter cram sessions right before the exam.
Absolutely. Now, when it comes to study resources, there's a wealth of options out there. Textbooks are a classic for a reason. They provide a solid foundation and go into detail on the key concepts. The BCSP actually recommends specific textbooks for each exam on their website, so that's a great place to start.
All right, so we've got textbooks, but what about all the online resources available these days? Are they worth exploring?
Absolutely. Online courses, interactive quizzes, study guides, the internet is a treasure trove of information. But like anything online, it's important to be discerning. Make sure you're using reputable sources and materials that align with the BCSP's content outline.
Right, because not all online resources are created equal.
Hmm.
Some are fantastic, but others might not be so reliable or up to date.
Exactly. And while we're on the topic of resources, don't forget about the power of connecting with other safety professionals. Study groups can be a lifesaver.
Yes, misery loves company, as they say, or in this case, studying buddies.
That's right. Bouncing ideas off each other, quizzing each other, sharing tips and tricks. It can make a huge difference. Plus, it helps to know you're not alone in this journey.
So study groups can be a great way to stay motivated and accountable. Okay,
Yeah.
so you've got your study plan, you're hitting the books or the online courses, and you're connecting with your study buddies.
Yeah.
You're well on your way. But exam day is looming, and let's be honest, those pre-exam jitters can really get to you. Any advice on staying calm and collected under pressure?
First off, let's talk about the night before the exam. Resist the temptation to pull an all-nighter cramming. Get a good night's sleep. Your brain needs that rest to function at its best.
I'm sure we've all been there staying up all night trying to cram everything in, but you're right, it's counterproductive. A good night's sleep is far more valuable than those last few hours of cramming.
Absolutely. And on exam day, make sure you eat a healthy breakfast. Avoid sugary foods that will give you a quick energy spike followed by a crash. You want sustained energy to power through those 200 questions.
So no donuts for breakfast on exam day.
Maybe save those for a celebratory treat after you ace the exam. And here's a tip that helped me a lot. Arrive at the testing center early. Give yourself plenty of time to get settled and take a few deep breaths and gather your thoughts. Rushing into the exam room, all flustered, is not a good way to start.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's all about creating a sense of calm and confidence.
Exactly. Now, when you're actually taking the exam, remember all those test-taking strategies we talked about earlier? Read the questions carefully. I know it sounds obvious, but you wouldn't believe how many people miss points because they skim the question and jump to an answer.
It's like they say haste makes waste,
Yeah.
especially on an important exam like this.
Right. Take your time, understand what's being asked, and then consider your answer choices carefully. Another key strategy is to eliminate obviously wrong answers. This can help you narrow down your choices and increase your odds of getting it right.
It's like a process of elimination detective style.
Precisely. And of course, manage your time effectively. You don't want to get bogged down on one question and then run out of time for the rest.
Right, pacing is crucial.
Now, even with all the preparation in the world, you might hit a question that completely stumps. You don't panic. Take a deep breath, flag the question, and move on. You can come back to it later. Sometimes working through other questions will jog your memory or give you a fresh perspective.
That's great advice. So it's all about staying calm, focused, and using your time wisely. But I want to step back for a second and talk about something you mentioned earlier, the importance of understanding the material deeply, not just memorizing facts. Can you elaborate on that? Why is that deeper understanding so crucial for these exams and for being a successful safety professional in general?
You've hit on a really important point. These exams, especially the CSP, aren't just about regurgitating information. They're designed to assess your ability to think critically, to analyze situations, to solve problems, and you can't do that effectively if you're just relying on rote memorization.
So it's not enough to know, for example, the OSHA regulations for fall protection. You need to understand why those regulations are in place, what the underlying hazards are, how different fall protection systems work and how to choose the right system for a specific situation.
Exactly. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're a safety professional at a construction site, and you're tasked with developing a fall protection plan for workers who are installing roofing on a new building. You could simply go to the OSHA regulations, find the section on fall protection, and copy and paste the requirements into your plan. But would that be the best approach?
Probably not. It sounds like a recipe for disaster. What would a more effective approach look like?
Well, a truly competent safety professional would first assess the specific hazards present at that particular site. What's the height of the roof? What's the pitch of the roof? Are there any other hazards present, like skylights or power lines? They would then consider the different types of fall protection systems available, weigh the pros and cons of each system, and choose the system that provides the most effective protection for the workers in that specific situation.
So it's about taking that foundational knowledge of OSHA regulations and then using your critical thinking skills to apply it in a way that's tailored to the unique challenges of each situation.
Exactly, and that's why a deep understanding of the material is so crucial. It allows you to go beyond simply following rules and move into the realm of problem solving and creative solution finding.
That's a great point. It's about being a proactive safety leader, not just someone who blindly follows checklists. And it sounds like that ability to think critically and apply knowledge in real-world settings is what the CSP exam is really trying to assess.
Absolutely. The CSP exam is designed to challenge you, to push you to think beyond the textbook and demonstrate that you can handle complex situations and make sound judgments that prioritize safety.
So for anyone listening who's feeling a little intimidated by these exams, remember that it's not just about cramming information. It's about developing that deeper understanding and honing those critical thinking skills. And honestly, those skills are valuable not just for passing an exam, but for excelling in any safety role.
You're absolutely right. These certifications are not just about getting a credential. They're about equipping yourself with the knowledge and skills to make a real difference in the world of safety.
Well said. Okay, folks, that wraps up part 2 of our journey into the world of ASP and CSP certifications. We've covered a ton of ground, from self-assessment, study plans, to test-taking strategies, and the importance of deep understanding. Welcome back to Key Safety Talks, everyone. We're wrapping up our look into the ASP and CSP certifications. Over the past 2 parts, we've really explored what it takes to become a certified safety professional. We've talked about the history, the requirements, those challenging exams, and even how to prepare effectively.
That's right. We've covered a lot of ground, but now in part 3, I think it's important to kind of shift gears a bit and talk about the why.
Oh, okay.
Why put in all this effort? What's the real world impact of these certifications?
Exactly, because at the end of the day, it's not just about letters after your name or a fancy certificate on your wall. It's about making a difference, right?
Absolutely. It's about using your knowledge and skills to create safer workplaces, to prevent accidents, to protect people's lives. And that's what I find so inspiring about this profession.
Okay, so let's get real world here. You've aced those exams. You're officially a certified safety pro. Now what? What kind of impact can you actually make out there in the field?
Well, think about it. Every workplace, every industry has inherent risks. Construction, manufacturing, healthcare, even offices, they all have hazards that can lead to accidents, injuries, even fatalities.
Yeah, sometimes it's easy to forget that safety isn't just about hard hats and steel-toed boots. It's about protecting people from all sorts of dangers, seen and unseen.
Exactly, and that's where certified safety professionals come in. You're the ones with the knowledge and skills to identify those hazards, assess the risks, and develop effective solutions to prevent incidents before they happen.
So it's not just about reacting to accidents after they happen. It's about being proactive and preventing them in the first place.
Absolutely, it's about shifting the mindset from oops, something bad happened, to how can we make sure this never happens again? And that's where those critical thinking skills we talked about earlier, they really come into play.
Okay, I'm starting to see how all of this connects. So it's not just about knowing the rules and regulations. It's about understanding the why behind those rules and then using that knowledge to create a truly safe work environment.
You've got it. And to really drive this point home, I think it's helpful to look at some real-world examples of what can happen when safety is overlooked or compromised. Have you ever heard of the Deepwater Horizon oil spill?
Yes, of course, that was a catastrophic event back in 2010. 11 lives were lost, and the environmental impact was devastating.
It was a tragedy, and investigations later revealed a series of safety failures that contributed to the disaster, things like inadequate risk assessments, poor communication, and a failure to properly maintain critical safety equipment.
Wow, that's a chilling reminder of what can happen when safety protocols aren't taken seriously.
It is, and while we can't go back and change the past, we can learn from these tragedies and use them as motivation to do better, to be more vigilant, to never become complacent.
So you're saying that a qualified safety professional, with their knowledge of risk management, hazard identification, and safety culture, could have potentially played a role in preventing or mitigating a disaster like Deepwater Horizon.
Absolutely. Having certified safety experts involved in every step of the process, from design and planning to operations and maintenance, can make all the difference. They bring a specialized perspective that's focused on protecting people and the environment.
That's a powerful thought. So it's not just about ticking boxes and meeting regulations. It's about creating a culture of safety where everyone is empowered to identify and address potential hazards.
Precisely. It's about fostering a work environment where safety isn't just a priority, it's ingrained in the DNA of the organization. And that's where the true value of certifications like the ASP and CSP shines through.
So these certifications are more than just pieces of paper. They represent a commitment to a higher standard of safety, a dedication to protecting people and the environment.
They do, and they equip professionals with the expertise to lead the charge in creating safer workplaces for everyone.
That's a great way to put it. So if you're listening to this and thinking about pursuing a career in safety, or you're already in the field, and considering leveling up your skills with certifications like the ASP and CSP, know that you're not just choosing a profession, you're choosing to make a difference.
You're choosing to be a force for good in a world that desperately needs more safety champions.
Well said. And that, my friends, wraps up our in-depth look at the ASP and CSP certifications. We've covered a lot of ground, but remember, this is just the beginning of your safety journey.
Safety is a lifelong pursuit of knowledge, continuous improvement, and a dedication to protecting people and the environment.
Stay safe out there, everyone, and until next time, keep those safety conversations going.